Welcome back. The biggest source of worry amongst working professionals like us is financial insecurity and poor financial management. This is due to the ongoing job losses, the potential threat of job losses, a gloomy economy, and day-to-day struggles as life limps back to normalcy. Now, over the years, I've been a big fan of Japanese culture and the values that culture holds forward. The Japanese culture is famous for its humility, sustainability, longevity, and effectiveness. And I think we can all leverage some of the tenets of Japanese culture to address this biggest source of stress, which is financial insecurity. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about 6 key principles which you can use in your day-to-day life to address your number one source of worry, which is financial insecurity. The first principle I want to speak about is that you should not be ashamed of your wealth or if you are rich. Buddhism, one of the major religions in Japan, clearly says that it is morally correct to create wealth and it is morally correct to be rich. The only issue or the only folly individual should be careful about is that they should not become slaves to that wealth, or that the number one objective in their life should not be wealth creation, or they should not be flaunting that wealth excessively. Second principle I want to talk about is minimalism, financial minimalism, a Japanese version of it. Now, minimalism as a concept corresponds to having only what is necessary in your life and removing all forms of unnecessary clutter. In terms of financial portfolio management, it translates to not having too many investments across too many assets. If you are investing in debt, it's best to just have 1 or 2 instruments. If you're investing in equity, it makes sense to have just 2 mutual funds, one potentially for a domestic market and one potentially for the international market. Even with day-to-day transactions, financial minimalism holds a lot of value. Have just 1 or 2 savings bank accounts and have just 1 credit card and 1 debit card. Next principle I want to talk about is of wabi and sabi, which corresponds to accepting the realities of life and leading the perfectly imperfect life. Now, all of us have made mistakes, and the beauty of life is essentially accepting those mistakes and making the most out of it. In terms of financial parlance, what this translates to, all of us have had those investments, a tip from a credible source on a penny stock, we put in a lot of money and the investment went south. Or a potential real estate promising investment where we put some of our hard-earned money in and that investment is currently illiquid and cannot be sold. Now, the folly most people make is to live with the sense of regret every day that they should have done better. Unfortunately, not even the world's best financial advisor gets more than 5 or 6 of his or her bets correct. And we should all accept this fact that we will all make bad investments, and this is a fairly commonplace story. In case you're someone who gets very affected by some of these bad investments, what you should consider is shifting a significant portion of your portfolio from risky investments to risk-free investments so that at least you sleep well at night. The next principle I want to talk about is karoshi, or death by overwork. Now, karoshi is one of the negative elements of Japanese culture where people are so obsessed about their work and put in such brutal hours that they actually die because of work. Now, in terms of financial parlance, this translates to a very unhealthy obsession about chasing returns and tracking portfolio on an hourly basis. It also translates to listening to hyperactive journalists on news channels who keep saying that follow my advice and this will lead to financial nirvana. It also translates to continuously reading opinion blogs or listening to videos, obviously not mine, and trying to follow their advice on a day-to-day basis. To avoid the negative effects of karoshi, what you should try and do is 1. Avoid churn and avoid too many transactions. Track your portfolio only once a year and actually significantly avoid following news about hyperactive journalists and other videos and podcasts. The next principle I want to speak about is about ikigai. Now, ikigai translates to leading your life with a purpose every day of your life. For some of you who are well read, Ikigai is one of the biggest exports of Japanese culture to the world of management and philosophy. And it translates to doing what something you're good at, what something you enjoy, what the world needs, and the world is ready to pay for that. Now, money or chasing money brutally can rarely be someone's ikigai, because at the end of it, it's a fairly shallow purpose in life. So what you should look at is wealth is after all just an enabler, while you ruthlessly pursue your ikigai every day of your life. The final principle I want to speak about, and it's potentially the most important principle, is the concept of negative visualization as practiced by Stoics, or a part of the religious studies called Stoicism. Now, Stoicism as religious studies originated in Greece and Rome, but soon permeated through the reins of Japanese culture. In one line, negative visualization corresponds to asking yourself every day, what is the worst that can happen to you? And train your brain to come up with a good enough answer so that you're at peace with yourself. The tool of negative visualization is practiced by the biggest sports leaders and the biggest politicians the world over. So go ahead and ask yourself, what happens if you lose your job today? Or what happens if you lose 80% of your wealth at one go? Have this chat with yourself every day, and hopefully over a period of time, your brain will come up with a very good answer and you will be at peace with yourself. Hopefully, you will live and hopefully you will sleep as well the centenarians in Okinawa do. So these are the 6 principles I had from Japanese culture, which you can use to address your single biggest concern about financial stress or financial insecurity. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do let me know what you thought about it by writing in the comment section below, and look forward to meeting you again.